Hello everybody, I'm Gwen Campbell-Mindes. Welcome to Gwen's Bookish Ramblings on a Friday instead of a Thursday because I'm just not managing to keep up. Anyways, so this is the sequel to the book from last week, and the interesting thing, of course, was that in the last book, Jenn gets told repeatedly, constantly, that she can't leave for a variety of reasons, and at the very tail end of that book, she is told by the so-called turn-born, and that is people who are born sort of on an eclipse in the right place, in particular turn-born in the other world place. It's basically, it's basically conceptually fairy, like all of those notions of the homelands of the Fae where everything is weird and insane and upside down. But anyways, she's been told repeatedly she can't go anywhere, but at the end of that book, they tell her that while you can't ever leave areas of magic, you can travel through the other world to reach other places where the magic of the other world leaks into the regular human world. And, she's delighted to learn this because, of course, this means that she will be able to travel, she will be able to leave. She won't be able to go everywhere she ever wanted, but it's more than she had thought she was going to get. So in this book, she's now properly engaged to Bannon, who was the handsome captain who showed up and, and was the other part of the love triangle between her, the dragon she accidentally deliberately, but didn't quite realize the side effects of what she was doing when she transformed him into a human, her dragon friend Wisp. But Wisp finally gets to go back to being a dragon, and she winds up engaged to the other guy, and everybody's happy because a lot of people in the village were extremely nervous around Wisp, who was, what happened, that idea that you have a dragon who's transformed into a human, he's not gonna be real comfortable around people with human social mores, because things that dragons do aren't gonna be like things that humans do and stuff. Anyways, so she's, happy and things are going great, and then Bannon's sister, Lila, sends his nephews to stay with him in this village. Now, the thing about that village is it's soaked in magic. It's half in and half out of the other world, and because of that, it's weird. Like, they don't have cats, they have giant toads that eat mice. And they don't have chickens, the toads lay eggs in exchange for pebbles. And, they don't actually, farm the way normal people farm, where you pick up a scythe and you cut down the wheat, and then you take the wheat and you split the wheat from the chaff and you do this whole thing. Instead, the Turnborn, who are mostly magical creatures with extra powers from the other world, have come through on a regular basis, pretending to be now, I'm going to be clear here. They're using the term tinker, which is often a pejorative term, at least in Ireland as I understand it. But the thing is, they're not Roma. They're really, really not, and they're not pretending to be Roma, and so you can't really call them Roma. It's the quote-unquote gypsy type, the notion of peripatetic travelers who, come through and they trade goods and so on, but that they live their lives on the road. So it's sort of that type, but I really wouldn't want to identify them as Roma, because Roma is a very specific cultural group, and there are other people who do that thing. So, we don't really have a term that is an umbrella term for that, at present, because it's a variety of different cultural groups that do this. So it may be something of a complication. Anyhow, but what they do is they basically show up and they wish all the grain to just fall off the stalks, and so people don't cut wheat. They harvest it by just going there and scooping stuff off the ground. It's really, really weird there. And the thing is, people who don't belong get nightmares. Like, not just, I have trouble, but like really serious, horrifying nightmares. Nightmares that are terrible enough that they can't sleep and that they eventually just have to leave because they cannot stay anymore. Jenn Nalynn's aunt, who everybody in town adores, they think she's awesome, she's a great person, but for whatever reason she doesn't fit there, and she can only stay so long every year before she has to leave and go home because she just cannot stand the nightmares. Bannon's friend Tyr is similar in that he had been planning on staying with Bannon for the rest of forever because this man is his friend and his superior officer and he owes him a lot, just like all of these things, and he was going to stay and he couldn't because of nightmares. So sending her kids to this place is a really, really concerning move because it means something is really, really wrong. And they figure out that she has gone traveling to another country entirely because her husband has gone missing, and there's this whole diplomatic boondoggle that's happening. And so Bannon and Jenn eventually make their way through the other world with various adventures, including a holdover of first settlers who has turned into some kind of an ink monster thing while he got himself lost in the other world because he's a complete psychopath. That thing. The guy who wanted power, so he tries to crack open the gates of the other world and winds up trapped there and then turns into a monster. And then decades later he starts appearing in mirrors and freaking everybody out. Like that thing? Yeah, so that's a thing. Anyway, he's sort of there, and I'm not entirely sure why. But anyway, so Jenn and Brandon, they make their way after some trouble and back and forth and adventure into this foreign city, and Jenn finally gets to go to a foreign place, that she gets to leave, that she gets to see some of the world, and in spite of everything, it sort of underlies all of this, just that she's got this chance to go, because, like I said last time, it's not that she wanted to leave forever, it was that she wanted to see other things, and she gets to see them. Interestingly, whoever did this cover art, because you know how rare it is, problematic, frequent, whatever it is, that people will do cover art for a book and they won't bother to know anything about what's in the book. Sometimes people do cover art and it looks at least like somebody gave them a summary of what's in there, and so they can make stuff up and can put something together. But other times they'll do something and you'll say, I don't even know what that is. What is that? Why is she wearing that? Well, in this case, there is no question of why she's wearing that. That's actually basically what's described in the book. In particular, it's discussed that they have these bare shoulders, that she's not wearing a proper long dress. You can see the turtles, because instead of having scary frogs that eat mice, they have giant scary turtles that run around and do stuff. It's a whole interesting thing. The one issue I have with this book, because it's a good read and it's fun and it's interesting and all that stuff, my one issue with it stems from the fact that Brennan's sister, appears in the book as we come up on the end, because, they followed her to this city and all kinds of other, and all that stuff. And she shows up there, And the thing is that Lila Westietas is... she's doing fine. She doesn't need help. She escaped from prison on her own. She had tracked her, husband down on her own. And it's a little bit problematic when you look at this and you find yourself thinking, man, I wish that, we had given Jenn a chance to be impressive, given Bannon a chance to be impressive, given these regular characters, given, sort of our two leads, the opportunity to sort of really do their own thing. Instead, she kind of just rocks up to them already having handled everything herself, and it's a little disappointing because it kind of undercuts all of the panic and all of the, desperation and the need to travel through this dangerous otherworld and all of this stuff. It really kind of undercuts it to have the sister be not needing any help at all. And on the one hand, yes, it's great that his sister is not a damsel in distress in disguise, because he's always described her as being anything but a damsel in distress, but at the same time, it feels a little like, you mean if they hadn't showed up, you could have just happily made it home fine and nothing would have gone wrong. The thing is, Bannon does have a part to play in resolving the issues going on out in this place, but it's not a rescue, and Jenn is kind of completely sidelined. And since this is sort of about her, this book series, it feels a little off. So while I'm enjoying it, I'm also kind of hoping that the series develops a little more so that she gets to superhero a little bit more than she has been. Just because it feels a little disappointing to have all of this build up and then, no heroics are needed after all. I mean, it's interesting as a plot point, but it's also just a little disappointing. Anyways, so it's an enjoyable book. It's got some enjoyable world building. The world building in this is really pretty solid. I do like the world building. Which, it expands a little bit more in this book precisely because we had in the last book the notion of other places where magic sort of intersects with the regular human world, and in this one we get to see a place where magic intersects with the human world and get to sort of see that magic at play and how it's different than the magic of Merodell, because the magic in these two places is different, and of course we'll never know if that's just a matter of, cultural discrepancies between the people living in these two areas and how that interacts with magic, but that's fine. Anyway, I don't really think I have all that much to say, except I'm probably just going to keep going with this series unless the next book is not something that I like, at which point I will be in a bind, and will probably have to dig out a picture book or something for last minute, play or what have you. Anyways, so that, and oh, look at that. I still have less than a minute, but most of a minute. But that's all I really have to say, and that's everything, and I will see you all next week.